Uplifting Leaders podcast, where we're unleashing leader possibilities to make a better world. I'm Tricia Ryan, and together with Crystal Roberts, we're diving deeper into some of the complexities of the world's most critical challenges and exploring innovative ways of navigating through them.
Through interviews with experts and leaders just like you, we are exploring what it takes to thrive as a leader today and examining new ways of thinking about how to creatively lead into a more equitable, socially responsible, and sustainable future. And the future starts now.
Hi, Crystal. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Tricia?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm still feeling the aura that I got from listening to Dorothy Siminovitch talk in our last episode. Oh my gosh.
So much deep learning and wisdom that she shared with us. And I actually did not realize that she was essentially the very, very beginning of the Gestalt coaching methodology. And so that was really interesting to hear her story around how she came to coaching and just sharing all that wisdom with us about resistance and how we can use it positively to make change. I'm going to be listening to that one again, for sure.
Yes. You know, it's funny. As she was talking about Gestalt, I was thinking, I remember I was working in San Francisco at the time. It was like a big deal for businesses in the area, and I worked for a major corporation there. So I remember that was the word, and people were, you'd see it everywhere, and they were making sure they spelled it right because it was just a little different. You didn't say Gestalt, you said Gestalt. Like you put that German accent into it or whatever. And it was very popular. And just around the time I was probably leaving my corporation was when they started talking about sending leaders to, targeted leaders to Gestalt training because it was going to help them in, moving forward and all that. I thought that would have been so cool. If I'd stuck around a little bit longer, I might have been going to that, right? It was so cool. But that was awesome. She has a really rich history, and it's amazing how grounded in that concept, the Gestalt concept, and how she was able to take that and make it into something that's practical and usable for people. And it takes a lot of the unknown out of it for people. She makes it more human, how we can use it. And it's not something to be afraid of. I love that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how we might, one of the things that I notice I do and I get the lead on these things is I always go right into the thing and I forget that really I want to know how my friend is today. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, things are busy, and we've got, the summer vacations that we'll be taking, and mostly those staying around here to be close to the beautiful Pacific Northwest when it's summertime, because it really shines.
It does. It actually does. I noticed there are a lot of things that are blooming these days. Mm-hmm. In fact, we were talking a couple weeks ago about foxgloves, and for those who listen, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you know what I'm talking about. But it's a cool plant, and years ago I went and bought a bunch of them, and then they died. But I found out along the way home that they grow wild all over the place.
They are.
I've got wild ones in my backyard right now, so I'm so excited.
We do too, and my plants are thriving. The ones that we bought. You can listen to our episode it would be around April 20th, I think, where we celebrated Earth Day by going to a local nursery and picking out some plants that were good for
pollinators.
Yeah, for pollinators, for the birds and the bees and
butterflies.
And butterflies on the bugs. And so those are thriving in my backyard, which I love. And I've actually noticed a difference, but I can't believe it's just because of those 3 plants. But I think this year must be an extra good year for the birds.
I think you're right. And it's interesting you should say, we're going into this whole thing, but it's true. I noticed in my backyard, there have been a couple of years where we live, we have so much of nature out there, right? There are so many critters and things. But the last few years, I really not noticed too many of them. And I look for them because I love animals and I love just having them in my yard. But for the last 2 weeks, clearly there must be a nest around here because there have been robins in my backyard picking up worms out of the ground. So I know that we're having a better year because I have not seen that for a while, and I'm hearing them in the morning. So it's great. I love it. So let's dig in a little bit. We have some great gems. I mean, more gems than we had any amount of time and space for right now from our talk with Dorothy. In fact, I think we'll probably be going back and unpacking that a little bit, more gems as we go on over the next year, I would think. But one of the things that she was talking about was really kind of getting grounded. How do you check in with yourself, and how do you make sure that you're okay with where you are, especially when there's change going on and you're dealing with other people, and you may or may not have a total agreement, but you need to kind of check your thinking. Right?
Yeah, I loved her quote that she said that we don't need to be perfect, we just need to be present.
That's right. And how do we get present?
Yeah.
Especially when there's so much going on in the world, right? It's just never ending.
We're living so distracted these days.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, our phones are pinging at us. Our computers are pinging at us. We have lots of things that are competing for our attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say that, what flashed in my mind was
your phone that flashes every time it gets you got it. Get a text or
you know me so well. Actually, it is what came to mind was the fact that it's not going to get any easier because what we have now, is just sort of, we're all feeling very busy minded about it.
Yeah.
But as we think about millennials and Gen X, which they get overwhelmed too, very much so.
Yeah.
Over the same things, but their focus is different. They have a real quick way of, letting go of things sometimes, or they hold it in, right? So they need grounding too, right?
Yeah.
How do I get right with myself so that I can keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So we went through and looked for a gem from Dorothy is about getting grounded. We looked for some information on getting grounded, and of course we went right to an article. And so I found this great article from Forbes, actually, and it's on how to stay grounded and lead with confidence in uncertain times.
Perfect.
I thought, well, how appropriate. So I thought what we would do is just go over, I think there are like 5 on here, and I know between you and I, we have at least that many for how we stay grounded, and we would like to just kind of impart a little bit of that for our listeners today.
Yeah.
You open to moving forward on that?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
So in this article, it's all about how just everything is going on in life, right? And right now, it's not just work, it's not just school, it is the economy, it is the world economy, it's war, it is, you name it, the, things going on in our own country. And
climate change.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's just...
protests.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's
Am
true.
I distracting
well,
you?
No, you're not. And no, you're not. And the other thing that I think is for me extremely disturbing is the fact that we're losing some of the things that we fought so hard for so many years to get. And, not to be political about it, but my heart is breaking because of it, because I remember as a child not having my dad at home a lot because he was working on stuff like that. And then to find that all that work is being just stopped, right? So anyway, something to get grounded about, that's one thing, right? That's one of many. So the first thing that this article came out with was own what you know and what you don't know, right? So it's just one of the biggest traps that leaders fall into is feeling like they need to have all the answers. And boy, do we need to have all the answers? No, actually, we don't. As long as I know I have people who have the answer, sometimes that's enough, right? But I want to be able to have a conversation about it, right?
Yeah.
So the truth is you don't.
No, especially as a leader, there's no way to know all of that information.
Right.
We just can't. And also things are so uncertain. So we don't know what tomorrow will bring. And so many things can shift and change. And so our ability to just deal with uncertainty is really important.
And, if you're in a business and you're a leader, it would be impossible for you to know everything you need to necessarily know because there's just so much hitting you every day. And if you did know all of that, would we really need all the people working under you? Probably not. Not always, right? So that's the first thing is that, to relax into this and know that you do not need to know everything. You don't know exactly what's coming next. Nobody knows that, right? Yeah. You can have a plan, but you can never be sure it's going to happen. So sharing what you know and being transparent about it and being transparent about what you don't know, that's the part that helps build trust. And Dorothy was talking about that, right? Yep. Just being transparent and saying, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. That's okay. I think that's a heart touch because people will identify with that because a lot of us have that every day, right?
Yep. The second one is stay above the fray. So what's interesting as leaders can be challenging when we don't agree with the decision that those above us are making. And we have to communicate that and get our teams on board. And the most important thing there, I think, for us is as leaders is to really be able to understand what the decision was and as much as we can, what the impacts are and how that decision was made. And then to just be able to explain that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That should make it easier to actually, hold the line and support what you have to support. Because as we know, when you're in a formal leadership role, a big part of your role is to support what the organization's decisions are at the top.
Yeah.
Right?
So really staying away from that blame game that actually erodes trust, even though it can feel like, oh, well, I'm just part of the team because I can complain about upper management and the decisions that they make. That actually erodes trust because they need to see that you actually can figure out how to actually make this work for them and that they can follow you in that direction.
That can happen at the highest levels of the business too. I mean, when a decision is made amongst a team of, your C-suite people, they need to be on board with it too. They need to be committed to deliver the message to their direct reports with the expectation to those direct reports that they're going to do the same thing. Sometimes it's about getting an agreement on how you're going to communicate before you allow that communication to continue cascading down. Because to your point, if one person doesn't like it and it wasn't my idea, they're making us do it. The people below hear that, and it becomes even more dramatic than that. And it's like telephone, right? You just keep adding something to it.
Yeah. The question they tell us to think about is, how can I lead effectively within these new parameters? And really getting clear about that. How can I help my team be successful in this situation? And we don't have to lie and say that we love it and we think it's the best decision ever, but it's just basically staying away from the blaming.
Yes. Good point. The next one is to find a safe space for vulnerability. And, this also is something that Dorothy talked about pretty much close to the end when she was saying that I think a colleague of hers said something about be naked, right? But with the right people.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of the same thing, if you have issues like she was talking about, sometimes you get what you don't want, right? Yeah. And it's kind of thrust upon you and you need to take a hold of it and do something with it, even if it's not something you want. And in order for you to feel safe saying something to someone about it, that's being vulnerable, right? You need to know that you've got the people that you're talking to are going to also support. They may push back a little bit, but they're going to support you in your moment of being candid and of speaking your mind or your heart. And they say in here that it is having a trusted mentor or a coach or a therapist or someone that you feel absolutely that you trust, that you can be open to, is absolutely essential. And so for leaders, hopefully you have that, you have either a small network of people that you trust, or you have a trusted colleague or friend that you can have those kinds of conversations with. And, that's so important. And if you don't have that, certainly, think about getting one, because getting a coach, getting a mentor, because it is so invaluable. It can really help. These are people who can help you without giving you the answers. They can help you work through whatever you're feeling challenged about, whatever's going on, and they can help you get right with it. They won't get right with you, or they won't get right for you, but they will help you through questions or just conversation, so that you can actually come up with that answer that you can live with, right?
Yeah. And that it's just, I see it as actually part of the self-care.
Yeah.
So that we can process with someone else. So when we come to our team, we can show up in the way that we want to show up.
Yes.
Yeah. And to recognize that is important and a normal thing that everybody needs to do. We cannot keep it all in our head.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The fourth one is seek broader perspectives. And Dorothy talked about this one as well, that it's really important to do just very simple check-ins with people. How did I do? Mm-hmm. What could I do differently? Did I meet your needs? And really being able to get outside of our own perspective. So we know that we don't catch everything. We don't see everything. And so how can we enlist others to help us with that? And that's through asking for feedback.
Yeah, I love that one, actually. I thought that was cool. It's sometimes people wait until they have to have a 360 before they get that kind of information, but to just ask in the moment, especially if you've done, like maybe you spoke in a meeting or something, and you had an idea that you didn't really get a sense of how everybody felt about what you said.
Yeah.
You're looking around looking for that, body language that's telling you, and you're just not getting a sense of it. So asking is a really good idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also making sure that when we do ask people and we do enlist people in helping us with that we're not just having somebody who's going to parrot back or just, it's important to have those people that are our cheerleaders, but that we are actually seeking out diverse perspectives, that we have somebody who's actually going to maybe give us that hard feedback so that we can grow.
Yes, absolutely. The last one on this article, anyway, is to embrace experimentation. And they say that most uncertain situations don't have a clear one-size-fits-all solution. And isn't that true? I know people, and I've actually, in a few things, done this myself, where, this is how we do it. This is how it's done. And is it? We used to do an exercise in one of our leadership programs that we offered years ago, where we did a napkin folding exercise, right? And if all we do is ask somebody to fold a napkin, does it really matter what it looks like when it comes back to us, if we don't tell anybody what exactly we want? But at the same time, just saying, what if I did this a little differently? Does it have to be, do I have to do this step? Or what if I did this? What I took it from another angle? And sometimes that's great when you need grounding, because especially if you're starting to doubt yourself, or you're starting to doubt where you're coming from. Leaders during uncertainty means accepting that you're not always going to get it right on the first try. It reminds me of that Edison thing where he said something like, I had 200 successful tries before I finally got a light. I don't know, to go on. It's just, I can't even remember what it said, but it's looking at it from a possibility, as a possibility instead of as an obstacle, and keeping your mind open and in a growth mindset to kind of trying something different. And it said that willingness to experiment, to test and refine your approach is a cornerstone to agility, right?
Yeah.
And we ask for agile leaders, especially now that things change by the terasecond.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love their statement there. It's not about avoiding failure. Mm-hmm. It's about learning and evolving along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny how I think a lot of times we do things by a certain process, and we even process map, like this is how you have to do it.
Yep.
But the world is changing around us all the time, right? Every day. And new generations are coming into work, and we've got all different perspectives. So that process map that is so cool, and it's that foundational thing, if we change one piece of equipment, it can almost throw everything out the window and you have to start again. So being agile and knowing that, okay, what if we tried this differently? We have somebody in the business I work in who is, he's in the IT department. He's an IT leader, and he loves AI, right? And I think he loves AI because he talks about it a lot. But what I notice when I go to things where he's talking about it is he's got a spark. And it's an excitement. It's like it's something interesting to him, but he keeps looking at different ways that can be brought into business, and he throws the idea out with the expectation that people are going to respond about that or they're going to react. And I love that. To me, that's engaging, very engaging.
Yeah.
But for him, that's experimentation probably a little bit. Right?
Yeah. I have come to realize that I'm a little less adept at experimentation than I thought.
Oh.
I always thought I was really good at that. But I've done two things now that have really taught me that I'm not, and that this is an area that I really need to focus on developing. And one of them was playing guitar. And I know I've shared a little bit about that. With guitar, what I'm learning is that there is many, many ways to do the same chord.
Oh.
And what I want is music, and I want them to tell me exactly what I need to do. And the reality is that's not going to happen because I want to know what to do to make it right. Oh. And so we've done a lot of learning of how to do chords, the same chord with many different fingerings, and that there's so many ways to do something. And you have to be agile in the moment. So it's the same sort of concept. It's like depending on what's going on around you, what you're going to play next, what you just played is how you actually place your fingers on the guitar. And so that's been interesting because I want to be precise and I want to know what I'm doing, and I want to, and it's like, no, you gotta be more fluid than that. And the other one is baking sourdough bread.
Oh.
So I'm going to tell a story on myself. So we bought the stuff to do it, and Chance and Sage, they left me the sourdough starter. So they've been doing this for a long time, but I should have spent the time to learn how to do it while they were there, but I didn't. But I bought the stuff and it's just sitting there, and I'm just afraid to actually do it because I don't have like a recipe. And I've heard that if you look on the internet, there's 600 different ways to do it. Yeah. And so here's the sourdough starter that's sitting in my refrigerator, and the brand new beautiful, I forget what they call it, but it's basically the container in which you're going to actually bake it, and the thing that for proofing, and the thing for making the cool stuff on the top, and all this. I've got I got all the bells and whistles. Yes. And it's a process where you can't follow a recipe. You can't follow a precise recipe where, like when you're making cookies or something, 2 cups of chocolate chips and 2.5 or 2.25 cups of flour.
Right.
Like, that is not true. And so I am getting over my resistance to just be able to jump in and try and experiment. And it depends on the temperature of your house. It depends on your elevation,
humidity,
time of year, like all these different things. So that's why you can't have a precise recipe, and you therefore do not have a precise outcome. So yeah, you could end up with a very small loaf of bread that is unedible, or something that's overdone, or yeah. So you got to be agile in the moment as you go along. And so I'm learning.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think, don't we all have things like that? But does that say that you are not open to experimentation, or is it that in these two very interesting situations, because music is a certain thing, and if that's, it's got a sound, and if you're looking for that sound and you don't know how to get there, that could be frustrating, right? So what you said about wherever you put your fingers and how you play it is what you have to remember, because, it's not, there isn't like a thing that's going to come in and say, no, your hand's in the wrong place, put it over here, in the moment while you're playing your guitar. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's actually making certain things that what I'm doing make a whole lot of sense, because as you know, I have a bass guitar and I'm trying to learn how to play it. And I just have always lived on the treble clef, and now I'm living in bass clef, and I don't know exactly how to do that. So I'm working on it. But
so those two things for me, when we think about experimentation, that it's through experimenting, through failures,
trial and error,
that you become better and better at it, but also better at experimentation. It's like, oh, that didn't work out. It's okay. I recovered. Oh, that didn't work out. That's okay. I recovered. And just like getting used to that, instead of being like, I've done this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I make the best chocolate chip cookies, and I do the same thing every time, and it comes out the same every time. No, this is completely different, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm finding it to be creative and rewarding and grounding, which is what we're talking about, because it actually does make you pay attention to what you're doing.
Which takes you away from whatever you're spinning on. And sometimes you are spinning while you're doing it, which to a previous interview we had a couple of weeks ago, Suzanne Waller said that rage baking, right?
Right.
Sometimes that's how you work through whatever is going on. So there you go. Right?
Yeah.
So what other things might you do to get your grounding on things when you're getting overwhelmed, or you're noticing that, the world is like not syncing exactly the way you need it to?
Yeah. For me, a lot of times, I see it in two buckets. So one is checking in to see, am I doing the things that support me sort of long term so that I can show up? How am I building my resilience? So how's my morning routine? Am I exercising? Mm-hmm. Am I eating a healthy breakfast? Am I, taking a short break at lunch? Like, what are the things that I'm doing to support myself every day? And then there's the things that are in the moment. Like, what can I do in the moment if I find myself really dysregulated? How do I come back to myself? And so I thought maybe talking a little bit about some of those. So one of the things that, and I share this with my clients too, and then we learned this through positive intelligence, is the fingerprint exercise, where you put your thumb and your forefinger together on both hands, and you close your eyes and you try, and you kind of make little circles, and you try and feel your fingerprint.
Yeah.
Yes. And you just do that for 10 seconds, and it really brings you back to yourself. It can calm if your heart's racing or whatever. I find a lot of relief in that. And so one of the things when we were talking about doing this episode is we wanted people to kind of try these things with us as we're talking about it. So if you're not driving, if you're sitting someplace where you can, close your eyes, put your thumb and your forefinger together, and do some little circles. Can you actually feel the ridges on your fingertips? Yeah. So in moments of dysregulation, when you want to bring yourself sort of back to home to yourself, try that one.
Another one you can try, which is also a PQ, positive intelligence, is to try to identify your toes, each of your toes, right? So, and he calls them my beautiful little toes or something like that. But that's Shirzad Shamin. Trying to identify my baby toe and the one next to it and the one in the middle, hard, very hard. But trying to, without going and touching them, but just sitting there, because if I can sit at a table at work and I'm in a meeting and perhaps I'm kind of losing touch with the meeting, or I'm feeling like it's getting a little overwhelming or something and I just need a moment, sometimes I will focus on my toes and try to identify, which toe am I moving right now, And it's funny because that was one of my favorite exercises when I first went through positive intelligence, was that I had to look for my toes, and probably because it was harder for me. I don't have ridges on my fingers. My fingerprints are there, but you can't see them. And so I can't identify the ridges. And I would just sit there, smooth finger on smooth thumb, and it didn't really do anything for me. But the toes part was good.
Oh, that's good. Was a good one. That's good. Yeah, so keeping with feet, there's a practice called earthing. If I have a couple of minutes, and usually this is just during the summer, but a couple of minutes between meetings and I want to get really present for another coaching session, I can go outside with bare feet and walk around in the grass and really feel the grass, feel the energy of the earth underneath my feet.
Yes.
And I find that if I can stay present in that moment and what I'm doing and feeling the earth, feeling my feet on the earth, that brings me literally back to myself, and it grounds me. Yeah.
I like that. I am a sun person. I'm not a big hot weather person at all. I don't really like that too much. I mean, once it gets past 80 degrees, I'm ready for the air conditioner. But I do like to be out in the sun and have it on my face. And when sometimes I just need to divest. If I can go out on my deck and sit down where the sun is shining on me, and then I try to identify what parts of my body are feeling the warmth of the sun. So to me, it's not always, you don't always get every part of your body that's feeling the sun, but I focus on how's my head and how are my ears feeling? Am I getting it on my face? How about my neck, my shoulders? And I just it's almost a meditative moment where I'm sitting there feeling the sun starting to drench me, which I do like to do. And it's quiet. It's completely quiet. I don't have to say anything. I don't have to do anything like that. Another thing I like to do is dance. I'm not a dancer in public, but in my kitchen, I can dance. I love it. I'll crank on something that's got a really good, healthy, medium fast beat. Yeah. And I will just let go. And sometimes I need that because that completely takes me away from where I am, but it allows me to be in touch with how I interact with the music, And that matters to me because I don't know, I like music to the point where I hear it in my sleep. So I just want to interact and navigate with it. And that's how I navigate with music, is I dance or I sing to it. So, yeah. How about you?
Another practice that actually a coach taught me several years ago, it's called Bold, Awesome, Shiny. Have you heard about that? Bold, Awesome, Shiny practice. So this I can do before I am doing something that I might be feeling a little uneasy about. I feel like I'm trying to create some courage for myself, and so that I can show up in a way that I want to show up. And so it's to sit up straight in my chair. So you can all try that, sitting up straight in your chair. Awesome is to put a smile on your face. And shiny is to put your hand over your heart, which actually sort of like regenerates energy for you. Bold, awesome, shiny.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think the last one for me, I mean, there are a lot. I think I must probably spend more time doing this than my work because as we're starting to think about this, I'm thinking, wow, I have a lot of things that I do that I try to get grounded with.
Yeah.
But one is breathing. I've been lucky enough to be in a couple of programs where we did breath work. There's more to it than just breathing in and out. There's a rhythm to it, and there's focus. And so there are couple different things that I like to use. One is called box breathing, where you inhale through your nose very slowly to the count of, like, say, 6. Breathe in to the count of 6. You hold it to that same kind of count of 6, the same rhythm. And then you slowly breathe out through your mouth to a count of 6, which sometimes makes you feel like you have nothing left in your lungs, and you hold that for a count of 6. Then you close your mouth and breathe in through your nose for a count of 6, and you keep doing this count of 6 all the way around in what they call box breathing. I call it square, but it's to start regulating the rhythm of your breathing, and doing that takes you in a space where that's all you're thinking about right now, and it matters that you're doing it right? Yeah. And what happens often is if I'm going into, like, I feel like I'm getting anxious about something, or I'm having a little anxiety because there's a lot going on in the world, right? I'll lay on the floor on my back and close my eyes and just lay my arms out at my side, sometimes like straight out, and I'll just start slowly box breathing. And then if I'm still into it, I'll put on some music, medium rhythm music, and I'll start doing deep breathing, where you breathe in with the rhythm. And so I'll start with my mouth breathing in and breathing out with my rhythm, but it's like inhale really hard, like, and then hold it for a second, and then out. And then, I mean, it's almost like hyperventilating, right? But it's not. But I'm laying on the floor, so I'm safe, right?
Yeah.
And I do that to a song. And then at the end of sometimes when it gets to the chorus and I've done that a bit and I need a break from that, I will just stop for a moment and just breathe normally for a moment. And then when it gets to the next stanza or something, I will start the intense breathing back and forth until the song is over. The cool thing about that is, number one, it totally super oxygenates your body. I mean, it's like mega oxygenation, and that's cool. And it's also intense. It can make your fingers hum and tingle. It can make your toes hum and tingle too. And your whole body will feel a little bit different. It's kind of electric. But that is actually a way to feel better for me. When I'm done with that, I have energy. I feel like, wow, I am feeling more positive than I was before. So to me, it's a really great method for, shifting your mood without going over and over and over the same thing that you've been getting anxious about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to stop the rumination. Yeah. Another one for me is the role of pets in our life. So being able to go out and give a pet to your dog or your cat or your hamster.
Oh, you mean like I just did with mine?
Yeah, yeah. They are important family members, and they can also help us regulate our nervous system. And then there's also a thing called co-regulation and we have to be careful about this in the workplace, but giving a hug or asking for a hug from somebody and just kind of holding that for a little bit, that can also help us with, or even just holding somebody's hand can help us, especially if they're calm, can help us. We naturally co-regulate to their calmness. Yeah.
When we were at, not this last conference, but the one we went to the first time, the Hudson conference a few years ago, we did an exercise where each of us you'd be with one other partner, and you would put your hand on their shoulder, or just like kind of their front shoulder, just one hand, and just look at each other, and basically you're syncing. You're becoming in sync. You're kind of regulating your breathing to each other. It wasn't necessarily a conscious regulation. It just happens when you have two bodies that are connected like that. I thought that was very powerful. I thought that was a good exercise to do. And I actually did that in one class I did after that, just to see how it worked. I was telling people about it, and there was an interest. And it was a group of people who don't typically sync with one another very well. And it had a really great impact. I wish I had done it with another group, because this was like I had to do 2-part training for the same large group, but couldn't get them all in one place.
Yeah.
So I did it with the first group. I didn't do it with the second because there wasn't that sense of willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate, but it was so great. I really do like that exercise. So I like the hugging part too.
Yeah. So many things that we could talk all day about all these things. A lot of them are mindfulness practices, but it's the awareness, as Dorothy was talking about. How do we make sure that we are sort of coming home to ourself, so that we are aware of those that are around us, the things that are happening around us, and the things that are happening to us, within us.
I love that. If we are like driving home from work, let's say, you go into the office, and you're driving home from work, and you need to be with your family when you get home. You need to be present with them, because you don't have to be perfect. You just need to be present, right?
Right.
And so having a conversation with yourself on the way home is absolutely doable, and it's absolutely encouraged, right? These days, we all have phones in our cars, it seems like, so we all talk to the air anyway, and nobody's going to know that you are maybe giving yourself some positive affirmations if you need that, or you're just going through your day by saying, Tricia, how was your day today? What did you do? What do you feel proud of? What do I feel proud of? And then talk about it. And then, what do I think I could have done better today? And what can I do tomorrow to make it better? And walk through that on my way home. When I get home, I've done my work. I've done my due diligence to let go of my day, so I can now be present.
Yeah.
Right? For my cat.
And your friends. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So I hope that people will find something to experiment with. And if none of these sort of piqued your interest, all you have to do is Google it, right? Or go to ChatGPT and give me 50 things to try to get grounded.
There you go.
Yeah. It's one of the things that we didn't talk about with Dorothy, but I also, she taught us in that pre-workshop, was around figure, which is the idea that things can exist, but where we put our attention, that sort of being present with what we choose to do there, can impact our happiness, our effectiveness, and our impact as leaders. And so how do we get ourselves to that place where we can be present with what matters most? Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to be helping you to do, and hope that you have success with, is choosing where you want to focus your energy.
At the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's, we have to remember, podcasts tell you a lot of things about what other people are doing and stuff, but we're always focused on making a better world. And to do that, we have to be present, right? And I'm not saying Crystal and I have to be present. We are present, but we want you to be present too, because we think that it will make your life a better life. It will make your world a better place. If you learn a few tools, put a few tools in your toolbox to help you when you're in need, and to help you not have to be in need so much, right?
Yeah. And to be able to show up the way you want to show up.
Exactly.
And make the contribution and make the impact that you want to make, and help your team to do that as well.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So let's keep that conversation going. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can find us on all our social media channels at lifting_leaders. We have so many exceptional podcast episodes coming up with more fantastic guests, so be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. If you know someone who would find this episode inspiring, share it with them. Text them, email them, and take a screenshot and share it on your Instagram and tag us at lifting_leaders. If you'd like to know more about us, our guests, or the show, please go to our website at liftingleaderspodcast.com. You'll find our show notes there as well. If you're looking for help in developing your leaders or would like a growth opportunity yourself through leader coaching, please contact us through our website at www.liftingleaderspodcast.com. Thank you to Ari Chance Roberts for his technical support of our show. Finally, please take 30 seconds to follow us. It helps you because you never miss an episode, and it helps us because
you never miss an episode.
To follow us, go to Lifting Leaders Podcast Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow. While you're there, if you'd be willing to give us a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful. Thank you, Crystal. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Tricia. Thanks for finding the article for us.
Absolutely. Many thanks to you, our listeners. We so appreciate you. Find ways every day to lift each other up. Take care.
Bye.